What if the loaf of bread you trust the most, the one your family eats every single day, is quietly loaded with chemicals banned across Europe? In 2025, a Food Safety Watch report found that over 80% of America's best-selling packaged breads still contain dough conditioners like monoglycerides and calcium propionate, ingredients flagged or outright banned in the European Union for their links to heart inflammation, gut damage, and behavioral disruptions in children. But in the US, they're still lining our shelves without so much as a warning label. How did bread, something as basic and comforting as a sandwich, turn into a vessel for hidden additives and global double standards? Why are American consumers being fed chemicals that overseas nations refuse to allow in schools, hospitals, or even prisons? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal, and today we're exposing 7 packaged breads in the US that contain banned dough conditioners. Number 1. Wonderbread. Imagine biting into a piece of bread that feels more like memory foam than food. That's not an exaggeration, it's Wonderbread. Wrapped in nostalgic polka dots and sold as wholesome, this loaf has squatted on grocery shelves for nearly 100 years, charming its way into lunchboxes and pantries with a promise of ease and familiarity. It's soft, pre-sliced, and sticks around in your cupboard longer than your electricity bill. But ask yourself, how does bread stay that fluffy, that white, and that fresh-looking for weeks without growing mold or going stale? It's not because it was kissed by angels, it's because it was cooked up in a chemistry lab. Wonderbread's ingredient list reads less like a baker's recipe and more like a high school science exam. Dough conditioners like diethyl and monoglycerides are commonly used in the US to extend shelf life and texture, but both have raised red flags in places like the European Union and the United Kingdom, where food safety laws are a little less friendly toward mystery additives. And then there's azodicarbonamide. Yes, the same stuff used to make yoga mats and shoe soles. While some Wonderbread products no longer contain it, there's no clear commitment from the company to remove it from all varieties. Depending on where you live, your Wonderbread might be a different recipe entirely. That's not just inconsistency, that's Russian roulette with your grocery cart. Here's what really makes your blood boil. They still slap on words like enriched and fortified, like they're doing us a favor. But what they're really doing is stripping the flour of its nutrients, bleaching it snow white, then adding a sprinkle of synthetic vitamins back in and calling it healthy. It's like draining your gas tank, pouring in a cup of orange juice, and saying your car's ready for a road trip. And let's talk about where this bread shows up. According to a 2024 Food Policy Action Center report, breads packed with industrial additives like Wonderbread are 3 times more likely to be stocked at discount grocery stores and dollar chains, places where folks on tight budgets shop. It's not just about affordability, it's about being targeted. These corporations know exactly where to flood their cheapest, most chemically manipulated products. It's the same playbook used by tobacco companies decades ago. Go where regulation is weak and wallets are thinner. Even the labeling dances around the truth. Terms like natural flavors can legally hide more than 100 synthetic ingredients. There's no transparency, no accountability, and no shame. Wonderbread ranked in the bottom 10 brands for ingredient clarity in a 2025 National Consumer Study. That wasn't by accident, it was by design. What's most dangerous isn't just what's in the bread, it's the trust it's built. It plays on comfort, on nostalgia, on decades of repetition that say, this is safe. But safe isn't a feeling, it's a fact. And Wonderbread has done everything it can to blur that line. If you want better, it's out there. Real sourdough made from flour, water, and salt is popping up even at big box stores like Costco. Aldi's Simply Nature sprouted 7-grain bread offers a clean label option under $3, no banned additives, no tricks. Or maybe it's time to roll up your sleeves, grab that old bread machine collecting dust, and try your hand at no-knead bread. It's simpler than you think, and your body will thank you later. Because if Europe won't let it on their shelves, and the label can't tell you what's really inside, then maybe, just maybe, it doesn't belong in your body either. Number 2. Sara Lee. It's the brand that once felt like a handshake from the past. Dependable, gentle, and just sweet enough to lull you into thinking everything's alright. You'd see that red script logo, maybe hum their jingle without even realizing it, and toss a loaf of honey wheat or white sandwich bread into your cart without a second thought. Nobody doesn't like Sara Lee, they told us. But maybe that line only stuck because nobody was looking close enough at what came baked inside. Let's peel back the labels, shall we? In a 2024 report from Food Ingredient Watch, independent lab tests flagged Sara Lee's soft and smooth and classic white breads for containing a mix of dough conditioners that sound more like a chemistry set than a kitchen. One of the big culprits? Datum, short for diacetyl tartaric acid esters of mono and diglycerides. That might not mean much on its own, but it's one of the same additives banned or restricted in places like Denmark and the United Kingdom. US regulators may still allow it, but long-term research has linked this compound and its partner in crime, monoglycerides, to gut, inflammation, insulin issues, and even disruptions in how your cells produce energy. These aren't ingredients you can smell or taste. They're buried behind the catch-all phrases emulsifiers or dough conditioners, tucked quietly between yeast and salt, while shoppers are too busy trying to spot added sugars. But Sara Lee doesn't stop there. Take a look at calcium propionate, another invisible guest hiding in your sandwich. It's a mold inhibitor that lets the bread sit for weeks on your shelf, barely aging. For folks trying to stretch a grocery trip, that sounds convenient. But a 2024 study in the Journal of Pediatric Nutrition raised the alarm, linking prolonged exposure to calcium propionate with behavioral issues in kids, things like hyperactivity and irritability. Yet the bag says baked fresh daily, like it just popped out of grandma's oven, not a chemical preservation vault. Now here's where it gets messier. The parent company, Bimbo Bakeries USA, has been dancing on the line between slick marketing and outright misinformation. In late 2023, they were publicly reprimanded by the National Advertising Division for using health-conscious phrases like wholesome and healthy on breads that didn't even meet the FDA's updated sodium and sugar standards. But did they change the labels? By the time 2025 rolled around, the same misleading terms were still right there. Bold and proud, banking on the fact that most shoppers aren't pulling out a magnifying glass in aisle 5. And while we're talking about who gets what, there's a clear pattern. A 2024 investigation by the Consumer Access Institute found that Sara Lee's cheapest, most additive-loaded loaves were most available in lower-income neighborhoods. Meanwhile, their so-called clean label artisan lines were concentrated in upscale stores and wealthier zip codes. That's not coincidence. That's inequality wrapped in plastic, priced for your paycheck. But perhaps the biggest slap in the face? The same parent company reformulated their bread sold in Europe to remove these controversial additives, because the laws over there demand better. So the exact same loaf might be cleaner in London than in Louisville. It's not that they can't do better, it's that they won't, unless the law forces their hand. Still think that Red Label deserves your trust? It doesn't have to be a game of guess the ingredient. Ezekiel 4:9 sprouted grain bread stored in the freezer aisle skips the preservatives altogether and is made from organic, sprouted grains. It's available at many Walmart and natural food stores for under $6. Or try Dave's Killer Bread Power Seed, a loaf that actually earned an A from the Environmental Working Group for being transparent, nutritious, and clean. And if your wallet's tight, Aldi's Simply Nature line has an affordable, straightforward loaf that skips the chemical acrobatics entirely. When it comes to bread, looks can be deceiving, and Sara Lee, for all its charm, may just be smiling while it sells you something you'd never allow in your pantry, if only you knew what it was. Number 3. Fron Bread. It's the kind of branding that warms the heart. Rustic fonts, rolling hills, and the promise of tradition. Fron Bread wants you to feel like you're buying from the local bakery down the street where the ovens are brick, the aprons are flour dusted, and every loaf is baked with love by someone's sweet old Nana. For many folks living across the western US, especially those who still believe in the charm of small-town living, Fron's has become the trusted go-to. But what if that red brick bakery dream is nothing more than a well-dressed illusion baked in a lab and wrapped in nostalgia? Crack open the ingredient list on their old-fashioned white, buttermilk, or honey wheat, and that wholesome story starts to unravel like a stale crust. According to the Environmental Working Group's late 2023 ingredient breakdown, still valid through early 2024, these loaves include a cocktail of dough conditioners and emulsifiers like datum, monoglycerides, calcium sulfate, soy lecithin, and calcium propionate. The European Union flags datum for its potential to disrupt the gut microbiome and interfere with normal metabolism. Research from the University of Copenhagen in 2023 even connected high intake with leaky gut, a term that may sound silly but points to a real weakening of the intestinal lining. And here in America, still allowed. No warnings, no dosage limits, just the softest slice your $5 bill can buy. And softness is exactly the problem. The same mold inhibitors that keep Fron's loaves fresh for weeks, especially calcium propionate, are showing up in disproportionate amounts in lower-cost bread sold in working-class areas. A December 2023 exposure study found concentrations up to 8 times higher than in organic bread sold in wealthier neighborhoods. What's the message here? If your paycheck is tight, you're more likely to be fed the kind of preservatives linked to behavioral issues in children and chronic inflammation in adults. But instead of warning labels, Fron's packages these loaves with cheerful slogans like baked with care and made with whole grains. Sounds reassuring, right? Except none of those phrases mean a thing. They're not regulated. They're marketing poetry meant to distract from a recipe cooked up by global suppliers, not grandma. And while we're on the topic of deception, Fron's made headlines in late 2023, not for pulling toxic products off shelves, but for quietly lobbying against ingredient transparency laws in Oregon and Washington. Leaked emails revealed the company worked with industry coalitions to block bills that would have forced brands to disclose dough conditioners right on the front of the package. Think about that for a second. If a company is willing to fight transparency that hard, what exactly are they trying so desperately to hide? Even their local bakery image doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Despite their Pacific Northwest branding, many of France's key ingredients, particularly emulsifiers and conditioners, come from massive international chemical suppliers based in China and Mexico. Sure, the bread might be baked nearby, but the chemical building blocks have traveled thousands of miles before hitting your toaster. That's not a neighborhood bakery, it's a global supply chain with a folksy sticker on the front. But if you're tired of playing bread detective, there are better routes. Dave's Killer Bread, also based in Oregon, offers organic, additive-free loaves that may cost a little more, but actually nourish your body, and come with labels you can trust. For those trying to stretch every dollar, Silver Hills Sprouted Power Loaves offer frozen, hearty bread made with real grains and no synthetic preservatives, often under $5 at stores like Winco and Costco. Or go old school, 4 ingredients, no kneading, and your own oven. No apron required. Franz wants you to see grandma, but now that you've read the fine print, it might be time to see the truth. It's not flour-dusted hands kneading your dough. It's gloved technicians pushing lab-tested compounds into your sandwich. That's not tradition. That's mass production, dressed up like a fairy tale. Number 4. Great value. You walk into Walmart, grab a loaf of great value bread for under $2, and feel like you've just outsmarted the system. Cheap, soft, and always in stock. It's the kind of win that working-class Americans hold on to when everything else feels like it's slipping through the cracks. For folks stretching every last penny, a loaf that costs less than a gallon of gas can feel like a blessing. But here's the catch. That little savings today might come back to haunt you in ways no receipt can show. Because hiding behind that smiling yellow rollback sticker is an ingredient list that reads more like a plastics manual than a food label. According to data reviewed by the Environmental Working Group through the end of 2023, and still valid through early 2025, most great value sandwich breads are stuffed with dough conditioners and preservatives like datum, monoglycerides, calcium sulfate, sodium stearoyl lactylate, enzymes, and of course, calcium propionate. These aren't spices or nutrients. They're industrial agents engineered to make bread feel fluffier, last longer, and cut costs in giant production plants. Europe has banned or restricted many of them, but in the US, Walmart sends out entire truckloads daily with zero warning. Let's break that down. Datum, diacetyl tartaric acid ester of monoglycerides, might sound like something scraped off a science fair volcano, but it's what gives those loaves that extra soft bounce. In studies, it's been linked to inflammation and cardiovascular stress in animals. Europe wants nothing to do with it. The irony? It's even banned in organic foods in the US, yet Walmart includes it freely in a product marketed toward the most financially vulnerable Americans. And calcium propionate? That's the mold inhibitor that keeps your bread from growing green fuzz. Convenient, sure, but in 2024, pediatric journals raised flags over its link to hyperactivity and mood changes in children. No one's screaming from the rooftops yet, but maybe they should be. And the marketing? That's where the real sleight of hand happens. Made with whole grain gets plastered on loaves that are mostly white, refined flour, with just enough whole grain to make it legal, not meaningful. It's like saying a soda is healthy because it has a splash of fruit juice. As long as they meet the bare legal minimum, they can keep the wholesome image alive. While shoppers unknowingly feed their families bread that's more engineered than baked, let's not forget where these loaves come from. They're not rising fresh in some small-town bakery with the smell of yeast in the air. Great value bread is churned out in massive centralized facilities with ingredients sourced from all over the globe, including countries where food safety laws are far laxer than our already questionable standards. This isn't homegrown. It's factory-born and boardroom approved. And who's in the crosshairs? Folks trying to make rent, seniors counting coins, single parents feeding 3 kids on one paycheck. Walmart's got the data. They know exactly which zip codes need that $2 loaf, and they're betting that nobody's got the time, or energy, to question what's really inside. But cheap bread isn't really cheap when it's built on hidden costs to your health. So where do you go from here? One cleaner option is Brownberry Organic, 100% whole wheat. It may cost around $4, but it's free of datum, preservatives, and doubles down on transparency. If that's a stretch, Aldi's Simply Nature. Seedtastic bread delivers clean, multi-grain goodness without the corporate games, at a price that still respects your wallet. Or, if you're feeling bold, give Amish friendship bread a try. It's passed hand to hand, built on real flour and fermentation, and tastes like something made with care instead of chemicals. Great value might save you at checkout, but it might cost you everywhere else. And if countries with stricter laws won't let these additives near their food supply, maybe it's time to ask the harder question: is cheap bread really worth the price we're not seeing? Number 5, Nature's Own. It's got a name that sounds like a hug. Nature's Own. The kind of label that whispers calm and goodness, like something baked with care by a neighbor, not designed in a boardroom. When you hear that name, you picture wheat fields waving in the breeze, not spreadsheets and shelf life targets. And that's exactly the point. With slogans like "goodness is in our nature" and phrases like "no artificial preservatives," it positions itself as the bread you can trust, the bread you'd proudly toast for your grandkids' breakfast. But here's the uncomfortable truth. When it comes to Nature's Own, the most dangerous ingredients might be the ones they're not telling you about. Flip the loaf over, and the label starts to lose its halo. According to product reviews by the Environmental Working Group and confirmed by retail data as late as early 2025, many varieties of Nature's Own, especially the popular honey wheat, whole wheat, and white wheat options, still contain dough conditioners like monoglycerides, datum, and vague enzymes. These aren't kitchen staples. They're industrial additives that help bread stay soft and uniform long past when it should have gone stale. And while the US still gives them the green light, Europe's been raising eyebrows. Take datum, for instance. This dough conditioner has been linked in animal studies to heart stress and damage to the gut barrier. The same kind of compound you might find in a processed burger bun, now showing up in the natural loaf you give your kids. Then there's enzymes, a term that sounds harmless, even healthy, but legally that word can include enzymes made from genetically modified bacteria or fungus known to cause allergies. And here's the kicker. Companies in the US aren't required to tell you exactly what those enzymes are or where they come from. So while the front of the bag tells you what's not in the bread, the back keeps you guessing about what still is. Even their proudest claim, no high fructose corn syrup, isn't the win it sounds like. In its place, Nature's Own often uses sugar, molasses, or honey. Sure, they sound less scary, but the effect is the same. A spike in blood sugar and a crash soon after. A 2024 consumer nutrition study ranked their honey wheat loaf in the bottom quarter for glycemic control, particularly among breads advertised as better for diabetics. In other words, they took out the villain everyone hates and replaced it with 3 quieter suspects wearing friendly disguises. And if you think Nature's Own is somehow more honest than other brands, you might want to sit down. It's owned by Flowers Foods, the same giant behind Wonderbread. And while they've quietly reformulated some of their bread lines in Europe to comply with stricter regulations, they continue to sell the same old ingredient mix here in the States. American customers? They get the budget. Formula. No label changes, no warning. Just the usual. One recipe for export, another for us. It's a bait and switch that stings especially hard when you remember who this bread is aimed at. Everyday families trying to shop smarter, retirees watching their sugar, and working folks just trying to bring something decent to the table. Nature's Own sells the image of health, but what they're really doing is stretching shelf life and sweetening the message just enough to slide under the radar. But not all bread is built on marketing smoke. Perstas chadis work towards about tortu spum? Try Silver Hills Bakery's sprouted bread. It's stored in the freezer, made with sprouted whole grains and free of the additives that come dressed in ambiguity. It's dense, rich, and made by people who put ingredients before slogans. If that's a bit steep for your budget, Simple Truth Organic from stores like Kroger or Ralph's keeps things clean and affordable, often under $4 a loaf. And if you're ready to take the reins, No Knead Bread Kits offer a back-to-basics way to bake at home with nothing but flour, salt, yeast, and water. No biotech, no brand tricks. Nature's Own wants you to believe they're the exception, but once you brush away the feel-good words and look at the facts, you'll see the same pattern repeating: slick branding, silent additives, and corporate priorities that put shelf life above real life. Number 6. Dave's Killer Bread. It struts down the bread aisle like a rock star. Black packaging, tattoo-style fonts, a cartoon baker with biceps the size of sourdough loaves, and a prison-to-redemption backstory that could make a movie studio jealous. Dave's Killer Bread doesn't just sit on a shelf, it demands attention. Organic, non-GMO, packed with seeds and swagger. For folks looking to eat cleaner without losing flavor, it seems like the rebel hero of healthy carbs. But sometimes the loudest rebel turns out to be wearing the same old corporate uniform, just with better marketing. Let's dig deeper than the flexing baker on the bag. Sure, Dave's proudly flashes its USDA organic badge and skips the artificial preservatives. That's a good start. But here's the twist. Several of their most popular loaves, like white bread done right and power seed, sneak in added cane syrup, molasses, and fruit juice concentrates. Sounds natural enough, right? Until you realize each slice can pack up to 5 grams of sugar. 2 slices for a sandwich and you're already over a mini candy bar's worth of sugar, and you didn't even taste it. For older Americans managing blood sugar, that's not just a hidden sweet tooth. It's a health trap with a health food halo. Now let's talk protein. One of Dave's biggest bragging rights is its high protein content. And yes, loaves like 21 whole grains and seeds do deliver extra protein, but the catch is how. They boost it with soy flour and wheat gluten, which might sound fine until you realize that both have raised concerns in recent 2024 studies for their impact on inflammation and autoimmune triggers, especially in older adults. So while you're chewing on that hearty sandwich, you might also be swallowing ingredients that quietly upset your gut or spike your system. And those seeds, toasted so hard during baking that much of their nutritional power is roasted away before you ever unwrap the bag. But the real secret weapon of Dave's Killer Bread isn't in the flour, it's in the story. The redemption arc of founder Dave Dahl, recovering from incarceration, finding purpose in baking, is genuinely inspiring. And the brand leans into it hard. It sells strength, second chances, and authenticity. It feels human. But behind that image stands Flowers Foods, the same corporate titan behind Wonderbread and Nature's Own. Since 2015, Dave's has been just another feather in the conglomerate's cap. That underdog feel, it's manufactured. And here comes another punch. A 2024 labeling report by Food Score Watch revealed discrepancies between versions of the same bread. The power seed loaf you buy at Costco, slightly higher in sodium and lower in fiber than the one sold at Whole Foods or health markets. Same brand, different formulas, depending on the audience. No disclosure, no warning. Just quiet substitutions for convenience and profit. So if you're starting to feel a bit tricked, that's because you probably were. But the good news, there are honest options out there. Silver Hills Bakery's Steady Eddie and Little Big Bread bring the seed-heavy, low-sugar goodness Dave's promises, without sneaky sugars or over-baked marketing. Ezekiel 4:9 is another tried and true, or trust, sprouted, flourless, and with 0 added sweeteners. You'll find it frozen, not shelf-stable for weeks, and that's part of the point. Or get your hands dirty and try a no-frills seeded rye at home. Just flour, water, yeast, caraway seeds, and nothing else. Your great-grandmother would approve. Dave's Killer Bread sells itself as the rebel loaf, the one that breaks the mold. But behind the gritty packaging is a familiar script. Market something loud, mask the compromises, and count on your story to sell the rest. In the end, the most dangerous thing about this bread isn't the killer part, it's how easily it gets you to drop your guard. If this bread aisle betrayal shocked you, subscribe now, because what's next in your kitchen might be even worse.
Thank you for watching today's video all the way through. If you found the content helpful, don't forget to click like and subscribe to stay updated to our latest daily videos. Now feel free to check out other featured videos currently shown on your screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.